Welcome. It's 5:30. We're going to call the meeting to order. We're going to start with roll call. Larry Jackson.
Here.
David Bullion.
Here.
Jessica Middle. Michael McRae.
Here.
Mike Pennick.
Here.
Richard Laughlin.
Here.
Barry Kaiser.
Here.
Joe Salinas. Okay, we do have a quorum. Our apologies to all of you who were here last time when we didn't have a quorum, but we're here now. Okay. We're going to start with the chairman's statement. Welcome to the August meeting of the Fredericksburg Historic Review Board. I'm Sharon Joseph. The Fredericksburg Historic District and landmark properties stand as a testament to Central Texas' rich, layered history. Municipalities have long recognized historic preservation as a vital tool for maintaining livable and sustainable communities. The Historic Preservation Officer and this board are tasked with translating this broad goal into a detailed technical decisions about how to manage change within the historic district. The Historic Review Board is an advisory board of volunteers appointed by City Council. Approval by this board results in a certificate of appropriateness and is required for any work on properties in the historic district and for city landmarks. In considering whether to approve or disapprove an application, the board is guided by the Secretary of the Interior's Standards for Rehabilitation and the City of Fredericksburg Design Guidelines. If anyone present wishes to speak in favor of or in opposition to any item on today's agenda, please register on the persons to be heard list, which is on the table in the foyer. It's not necessary to sign up to speak if you are an owner of or a representative for a project that is on the agenda. You will be called when the case is called, and we ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. Approval by this board does not take the place of any type of permit. Permits must be obtained for all work. No work of any type is to be started without obtaining the appropriate city permits after this certificate of appropriateness has been issued by the Historic Preservation Officer. Do we have any people signed up for public comment?
There were none.
Okay. Then we move on to the Historic Preservation Officer's report. Anna?
Good evening, Chair and members. Just a few things to bring you up to date on. The design guidelines were adopted by City Council in July, and henceforth, we will be using these design guidelines for your recommendations. My recommendations will be based on the design guidelines, and your motions will be based on those design guidelines and standards. We had them professionally printed. They're available for pickup. The public, anybody that wants a copy, can pick them up at City Hall. They're $20.85 or 50 cents. So we can do those at City Hall, or they are available for download on the website. See, also, the Texas Historical Commission is hosting a Commission Assistance Mentoring Program known as CAMP. That online training is taking place this Thursday and Friday. A few of you have signed up, and I've signed up knowing most of us will just be able to attend Thursday since Friday's fair day and City Hall will be closed. But those, all of us are required to do at least one training once a year. So I'll let you know of other opportunities for training, but luckily a lot of that training has been online. Coming up in November will be the National Trust for Historic Preservation. Their conference will be virtual as well this year with a fee. Also want to let you guys know that the Development Services Department has hired a new code enforcement officer, Ted Boyer, started on the 16th, and so he's currently training with Ray out in the field, and they are working evenings and weekends and daytime and out and about a lot now. So that was in response to the request from the public for more code enforcement around short-term rentals. So he's in the field.
Thank you, Anna. Okay, item 6 on the agenda, approval of the minutes of the July meeting. Does anybody have any changes or corrections to the minutes that were in your packet? Seeing none, the minutes stand approved as presented. Moving on to the certificates of appropriateness with the consent agenda. Items under the consent agenda are deemed by the Historic Preservation Officer to be routine in nature and will be approved by one motion of the board adopting the staff findings and recommendations as part of the approval. The items on the consent agenda will not be discussed. Any members of the board or the public that wishes to discuss any item on the consent agenda may request that it be removed and placed in the individual consideration agenda. We have one application on the consent agenda. It's application 2183 for 306 West Travis. Does anyone wish to remove that from the consent agenda? Anyone on the board? Anyone in the audience? Okay, so what I need now is an approval a motion to approve the consent agenda. Thank you, Barry. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Larry. All in favor, say aye. Approve, the same sign. Nate, if you disapprove, the same sign. Thank you. Sorry. Okay, so if you're here for 306 West Travis, your application has been approved. You're welcome to stay, but you don't need to. Okay, thank you. Moving on to the individual consideration items with application 2164 for 420 Plum. Anna?
Chair, I don't see the owner or applicant. He texted and said he's on the way, so if we can move that.
Okay.
Both of the items for 420.
Okay, so we'll move to 116 East Austin, Dennis Kusenberger. Anna?
East Austin in the Central Business District. The proposal is to replace original wood windows with wood aluminum clad windows. This is a Pella Reserve double hung wood window with existing frames to remain. And we've cited the new sections of the design guidelines on windows, including section 3.28, preserve and maintain all components of existing historic windows, screens, shutters, unless deteriorated beyond repair. If replacement of deteriorated features is necessary, use windows that match dimension, profile, and configuration of historic windows. If replacement windows are required, install the new windows so they maintain the same spatial relationships, including the depth and dimension as existed historically, relative to the window frames, exterior wall panes, and other features. Substitute materials and clad windows may be appropriate if the above-mentioned requirements can be met. And improve the energy efficiency of original windows by using methods that do not damage historic sashes or frames, such as weather stripping, insulating weight pockets, applying a clear interior film, adding insulated glass, and the necessary additional balancing weights, or a combination of these methods. Staff recommendation. There are two types of windows on the property. A 4/4 divided light wood window is found in the old tank house. The main house and rear addition have double hung wood windows without divided lights. The applicant is trying to improve energy efficiency and reduce noise infiltration by installing double pane wood aluminum clad windows. The windows in question do not appear to be beyond repair as required by A. The wood aluminum clad windows are a material that the HRB has approved previously because the dimensions of the wood are the closest match to the original wood windows, as required by sections E and F above. If approved, the exterior screen should be reinstalled, and new windows should not have the integrated screens as described as an optional feature in the brochure. If the windows in the tank house are replaced too, the replacement should match the 4/4 light pattern in the current windows.
Okay, thank you, Anna. Dennis, would you like to address the board?
Once again, good evening. I don't really have anything else to add from previous meetings. You have questions, you know what my goal is. I'm trying to eliminate noise, number one, and increase energy efficiency and reduce my electric bill.
Okay, questions, board?
So the lighted glass window front.
That will remain. Yeah, that piece will remain as a single pane window, and they're going to fabricate a section down below.
Okay, other questions?
And
Yes,
what's the
Michael?
plan on the screens, Dennis?
I'll put them back.
Same
Yeah,
ones?
same ones.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? If you have
And
no,
I do have
does anyone wish to see
Representative
the
Pella
window?
here if you'd like to see the window that we're talking about.
Anybody, board? No? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move that we accept the application stated.
Okay, second. Any discussion?
Just being clear, is the motion to approve does include the screens?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry.
Okay, any other discussion? Then I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Dennis.
Appreciate it.
Okay, I guess go back to application 2164 or 20 Plum. Anna?
Application 2164, 420 Plum, R2 zoning, and it currently has a low rating, and the proposal is to re-rate from low to medium. And the city of Fredericksburg is the applicant on this. I've cited the relevant sections of the Historic Preservation Ordinance that describe the difference between the three tiers, high, medium, and low. A medium rating is a resource that may or may not be identified as architecturally significant on an individual basis, but there are nonetheless valuable resources that add to the historic district's overall character and may be so ranked due to their proximity or contribution to the cultural, historic, architectural, or archaeological character of the district. These properties may have been moderately altered or are typical examples of a common architectural style or form, but generally retain their historic integrity to a good or moderate degree. Properties designated with a medium rating shall be protected from demolition and where possible will be required or encouraged to maintain or improve architectural features. Low rating, a resource that minimally enhances the district's ability to convey a sense of time and place. These properties may be typical examples of more recent or common local building forms, architectural styles, or plan types. They may be examples of distinctive building forms and styles that have been significantly altered or lack the necessary age to meet the usual 50-year threshold. Ratings are based upon current determinations of architectural value and integrity, and if known, historical and cultural value, and may be altered from time to time as additional information is discovered. No rating shall be considered vested, and the same may be established or changed at any time in accordance with subsection 23(5)D. Staff recommendation. Staff finds the 2018 low rating of the 1930s house to have been done in error. The Craftsman bungalow style features such as exposed roof rafters, decorative beams under gables, a front gabled roof, low pitch roof, triangle brackets, triple group windows, wood siding, original wood windows are intact. The biggest change has been the enclosure of the front porch, and the applicant is proposing to rehabilitate the front porch, which will enhance the integrity of the structure. The structure deserves preservation and protection from future demolition with a medium rating. Medium properties retain their historic integrity to a good or moderate degree. And the outbuilding does not appear on the 1938 Sanborn and is not considered original to the house. This structure can be removed with the current low rating, and staff does not recommend re-rating of the garage outbuilding.
Issue. All in favor, say aye. Okay. To application 2162.
Chairman, I want to clarify the re-rating is a medium with the exception of the garage.
I guess we should have included that in the motion.
Yes, I think we should have.
Do we have to go back and make another motion? It was in the application that way. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. So is it okay the way it is, or do I need to do something, Daniel?
And what was your recommendation? Did it recommend that?
The request was a re-rating of the main house, not the back house. So you didn't change the rating of the back house, so it will retain the low.
I thought the rating covered the whole property, so we'd have to separate out the,
We did that.
Okay.
I think in the documentation, we were clear.
okay.
If the board wants to clarify, you have to have a motion to go back to sort of reopen that item, and then you could make another motion to clarify if you wanted to do so.
If Anna doesn't think we need clarification, I think we're okay. Do you think we need further clarification, Eric?
It seems clear enough to me.
Okay.
It's just more than being in the garage.
Okay,
I mean, I think if Anna's application was only for re-rating the main house, then that's the extent of the action taken is
Okay.
for the main house.
thank you. Sorry for missing that.
Okay, application 2162, 420 Plum, R2, now has a medium rating for the main house and low rating for the back house. The the applicant is requesting a side and rear addition to the house, including a master bedroom, closet, and bathroom, an attached garage behind the house, a gym, an apartment south of the garage, as well as a pantry and powder room, and a connector between the garage and the existing residence. Exterior work also includes addition of a dog kennel. Existing windows to be reused and repaired. Proposing to remove existing non-permanent chicken coop and metal building, as well as permanent non-original additions to the residence located at the back of the property. Reopening the front porch and rebuilding columns and railing. Proposed brick color based on the existing brick of the home, and replacing the 26-gauge flat panel Gavaloom standing seam roof and keep chimneys, and repaint a water's edge for the body and midnight blue window screens. So I did want to note that this application actually came to me before we adopted the new design guidelines, so we're going to review it based on the 1997 design guidelines.
Okay,
So the staff's recommendation, A, the proposed addition, while large in square footage, is pushed to the back of the property and will not be any taller than the main house. The original footprint will mostly be intact except for the rear wall. The addition is following the design of the main house, but will be clearly delineated as an addition with cement board siding. Large trees will help screen most of the addition. Staff finds the addition to meet most of the recommendations of the design guidelines. B, the outbuilding does not appear in the 1938 Sanborn and is not considered original to the house or property. Staff recommends a removal of all the outbuildings on the property. The form of the porch is intact, and staff commends the owner for restoring the porch based on other similarly aged bungalows. The proposed phantom screen can be retracted when not in use. The existing roof is not original, and the proposed replacement will tie in with the new construction and is appropriate replacement for the existing roof. The paint colors selected are appropriate for the age and style of the house.
okay. Eric, would you like to address the board?
Sure.
Thank you.
Sorry for my tardiness.
No problem. We're here.
This week.
This week.
As Anna said, it's a nice arts and crafts bungalow, certainly worthy of preservation. The front porch was enclosed fairly early on in order to enlarge the main living area, but the owner is willing to do away with that enclosure and go back to the smaller enclosed space. Most of our additional square footage is at the back of the property with a connector to the rear of the house, with the exception of the new master bedroom, which is also at the back of the house. So we're keeping that minimally invasive, both visually from the front of the house as well as preserving the historic material in the house. When we restore the front porch, there's the two footings for the columns are still in place, and you can even see the ghost marks from the brick work that was on those footings. So we have a pretty good idea of what those columns look like, and we have found similar columns to use as a model for putting those back. So that'll be a fun restoration project. Our square footage at the back of the property, we're using a hipped roof and a low pitch on that to keep it low and out of sight as best we can. I think that's all that really needs to be said about it, unless you have questions for me.
Questions, board? Look like you're studying, so it's hard to call for a motion. It looks like you're still coming up with questions. But if not, I'll entertain a motion. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, David. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you, Eric. Approved. Okay, moving on to 209 East San Antonio. Anna?
Application in 2185 at 209 East San Antonio is a central business district zoning, and it's a high-rated property. The applicant is requesting approval to re-rate the following to allow for demolition and removal: the open-air shed in the rear of the property, the 1950s rear addition, and greenhouse added for the florist, and the water feature. B, the main structure's exterior character will be maintained, cleaned, and painted. Repair existing wood ceiling on the front porch to match existing. C, remove existing concrete ramp and railing and replace with an ADA compliant concrete ramp in the configuration shown. D, replace existing aluminum front porch material with the tongue and groove cedar decking in the similar orientation. E, repair existing original windows as needed on the front of the house, including replacing plexiglass pane with single pane glass. F, refinish and stain existing front door and side lights, flipping the door swing to open out for egress. G, new pass-through window from the inside bar to the outdoor deck and the existing window opening on the side. H, paint existing house siding and trim as shown. I, paint existing metal roof. J, replace rear window with door for kitchen access. And looking for a conceptual approval of the new concrete site walls with fence on top of the street side of the outdoor bar area. New outdoor bar, restrooms, and dining area to the south of the existing structure with new steel and wood trellis detached from the existing structure. New adjacent front porch deck with different wood finish and orientation to distinguish from original, and a new smokehouse in the rear and rear parking. We've cited the relevant sections of the new historic design guidelines and standards, including exterior walls, windows, and additions. Staff recommendation: the former Schmidt House and later Blumenhandler Flower Shop at 209 East San Antonio has a high rating. The roof, porch flooring, and side and rear windows have been replaced. A, the carport and greenhouse are not historic age and do not contribute to the integrity of the property. The first rear addition was added as early as the 1950s. The additions proposed for removal are not of historic age or materials, and staff recommends they be re-rated to allow for demolition. B, staff recommends approval based on section 3.26B. C, the current ramp does not meet ADA requirements. The front porch was originally concrete, or the porch steps were originally concrete. The proposed ramp will meet requirements while reintroducing a two-step concrete front porch step. The existing porch flooring is not historic age or material, and staff recommends the proposed replacement, which is more in keeping with the original design and material. E, staff recommends approval based on section 3.28B. F, staff recommends approval of the repair and staining of the front door and the changes to the swing to accommodate ADA requirements with minimal change to the door. G, the window in question is a replacement window. The proposed modification will not impact historic material, and staff recommends approval based on section 3.28J. H, the house appears to be white in the 1940s and is an appropriate field color for the house. The proposed accent color is associated with the business and is used minimally. Staff recommends approval. I, the metal roof in question is not historic. The proposed color is a common color for metal roofs, and staff recommends approval. J, the window in question is not original. The door is needed for life safety and egress. And so conceptual approval of the new construction. Staff recommends the new pergola or covered trellis to be pulled back from the front facade. The height is compatible and the openness of the structure is a benefit. More detail is needed on how the pergola will abut the side of the house. As presented, staff does not recommend approval based on section 3.3A, C, and E. The site currently has garden loop fencing that should be kept and reused where fencing is necessary. The fountain and pond has been modified over the years, but a pond feature was present in the 1940s. Other landscaping features include concrete perimeter edging found on the side east yard, and staff recommends the design incorporate as many original features as possible. For final approval, more detail is needed on the proposed bar and restrooms along with lighting fixtures for the front porch and yard.
Okay. Is there a representative from the property? That's okay, as long as you can answer our questions.
He's under weather. Yeah, he's ill. So he apologized he wasn't able to make it, but I'm Maurice Flores. I'm with the architects that are working with him on the project.
Okay. Do you want to address anything that Anna said?
I do. We've been working closely with Anna on this project. We had a preliminary meeting with the board, with the city as well to address a lot of concerns. So some of the things, just to quickly go into that, was we were providing parking in the back, which is not existing there. I mean, there's an old shed that will be demoed out, but because this is going to be more restaurant bar use, we were providing additional parking to the rear. And upon that, one of the feedback or the comments were because the original drive is too narrow for access, and they wanted us to have additional, so we ended up borrowing more of the buildable area that we were, which is going to have the pergola and the trellis. So we added an additional drive lane onto the opposite side of the house, which is a 12-foot drive lane, as you can see in the drawing up there on the top there. With that makes our kind of outdoor bar and seating area a little bit tight, especially when you're walking out there on site. And so I guess to my questions, in talking with Anna, would be is you've discussed that the pergola is a little too close to the existing structure and you're afraid of it obstructing that original facade, which I completely understand. And we are, creating no walls on the outside of that outdoor structure. So from the street, you can see the existing facade more so now than what you can currently on the street because of the tree, and it's just overgrown on that area. So a lot of it's in shade and a lot of it is obstructed by overgrowth, which will be all cleaned up. The tree, which is not shown on there, we're still in question if we can maintain it or keep it with the construction. The last time I spoke with the client, we would like to try to keep it. We'll raise up the canopy way above just to allow light and everything else to shine on that. With the trellis, I guess my question to you, Anna, would be how far is acceptable to pull it off? Because we are limited on space and we're trying to utilize as much of it, but with respect to the house.
I don't know that I have a direct or exact dimension, but I think that corner here is of the biggest concern because that's kind of blocking from the street. And then, as we mentioned before, we've seen this at other restaurants around town, such as Tubby's, that came in initially just as outdoor seating, and then over time it becomes enclosed because to make money they need comfortable space. So just knowing if we've got a framework there that can easily later be enclosed, that would be a concern as well.
So you need to make it clear to the client that that if the pergola is approved, that enclosing it later is not an option.
I understand that completely.
Our focus is all on the historic structure. We want to keep and preserve it.
Yes, ma'am.
So.
And one of the options, one of the things that we've seen or we've done in the past for outdoor spaces to make it comfortable, we're from San Antonio, so it's the same client. I'm from Castroville as well. But the outdoor, you have evaporative coolers you can place out there for the summertime, which really drastically help. Ceiling fans, which we have on this as well to help circulate air. Wintertime, we are looking at putting heaters up there on top to provide heat. And then it is a wood trellis and it's shown on there. And one of the other things we've been talking about is including, and this is early conceptual, so we haven't worked out all the details on it as well, but for on top of the wood trellis that's on that main portion of the structure is putting a acrylic roofing panel up there that allows, it's transparent, so it'll allow light to come through, but it'll keep rain and other debris from.
But that's not on the application.
No, ma'am, it's not. That was just something we were discussing after
So that wouldn't be approved just by talking about it here.
Well, then we can nix that, and if we have to, we'll have to present it to you.
Okay. Board, do you have questions?
My question is, what are we approving or not approving? Are we going to go line item by line item, or what's the direction that we're wanting to go?
We can do it all as one, or we can pull line items out, however you want to do it. Are there line items that you're concerned about that the architect may be able to address?
For the setback, was there a setback he's proposing of the trellis from the original?
So the trellis right now, there's two portions of it. There's one that's coming off, and is there? I guess I can't point to it.
We can see it here.
The smaller trellis. Okay. Yeah.
If you want to come over here and point.
Well, the application is for the conditional approval or conceptual approval of the pergola, right? Not the absolute. I mean, dimensions as city has recommended. So you would come back with more refined drawings of profiles and.
Yeah, so we're trying to get conceptual approval so we can go on with make sure that we're rolling the right way before we proceed too far.
So tonight, all you need is a conceptual approval of some type of trellis out to the east side, correct? Okay.
We're still going to bring back our permit and have to.
But still answer Michael's question about the pergola and the trellis. What would you repeat?
There are two different trellis. One is tying off the main front porch, and that's because our ADA ramp is coming down to this lower level, which is just only about 2 feet off the ground, and then we'll work that out with the contract on the final grade. So we do have ADA ramp and some steps to get down from the main porch down to the other area. So this kind of is paying attention, this short little pergola right here is paying attention to our main porch height. So it's in the same dimension, elevational, and plane, but elevationally they're also about the same. And then it steps back and we raise up to about the wall plate of the existing structure for the main trellis. And so that main trellis will step up in the same front plane from the wall back. And then over here where the outdoor bar is, we have another over that's again kind of tied into this mounting.
So if Anna's concern is the part of the pergola that comes out toward San Antonio Street that obstructs the view of the house, can you move that? Can you address that?
I believe it's this proximity that's coming to the house that's the issue. And we can, I mean, obviously we can pull it back. We're trying to provide cover for patients that are there. I'm just afraid that we pull it too much. I don't see people are not going to just be out the sun. And that's kind of where my question is, like, how far would that be?
Just so I'm clear, are you saying pulling it away from the house or or setting it back from the front of the house?
Pulling the actual structure away from the house, to close that
And Anna, is that what, are you talking about in your recommendations? Is the setback from the front, or is it a setback away from the original structure?
It's both. If you look at your design guidelines, height and massing, for site additions, use a hyphen to connect the addition to the historic building while minimizing the impact on adjoining historic building fabric. So right now, it looks to me like we're going to be impacting a lot of that east wall. So that's the concern. And then set back the new addition from the historic building so the historic building retains visual emphasis. Again, so it's a pergola, it's open, so I think that in itself, it's not your traditional enclosed addition. But I know where these things go. So, but the pergola itself does impact historic fabric, so that's why it could be set back or a hyphen to get out there. I think that's why, West End did that. We've got that right next door, and West End used more of a connector over to the addition. But as he mentioned, West End also didn't have to do the drive around, so they had more space to work with.
So do I understand your concern is not so much the design as it is right now, but what they may hang on to it later, which will obscure the house?
Well, I think right now it's impacting too much of the historic fabric on the east side, so pulling it off and pushing it back, combination, definitely to meet the design guidelines. Yeah, but obviously being open and a pergola, it's airy, it is somewhat see-through, but still, if it's abutting that historic wall, then it's inherently impacting it.
Okay.
And we are currently about a foot off of the existing structure, so we're not trying to touch it, but we are, to Anna's point, we are close to it. But again, it's just because we're limited on space in that area, and we're just trying to maximize while still allowing the structure to be as is and not interfere too much with the original structure.
Okay, thank you. Board, other questions?
Yeah, I have a question for Anna. Compared to what this board approved for the yogurt shop at Lincoln and Main and the building, the Brittner Zone in the 500 block of West Main, where they have full canopies going out to the street, this is very minimal, but do the new guidelines affect this differently?
Correct, yes. The design guidelines were adopted in July, and that's what we have today, so. And both of those projects predate me.
Yeah, they're both very ugly. Okay. Another question on the front door, you say you're going to flip it, so does that mean you're going to put the outside inside?
We're changing the swing of it.
Okay.
Reversing the swing. So
You're just reversing the swing up. But
yeah, we need to have it swing outdoor.
Yeah.
Outward.
I was just thinking with the molding, it'll be weird with it inside. That's all.
At the rear of the lot, where the parking is?
Yes, sir.
Are you going to put any kind of barrier fence on your back property line?
On the back property line, yes, sir, there will be a fence, and I believe we can go up to 8 feet.
Solid fence?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is that just a nice residential area behind you?
Yes, sir.
And I was going to comment on that as well. Anything else you could do to dampen the noise would be, like as far as vegetation and fencing, I'm sure the neighbors would really enjoy.
On that, where the parking stalls, as you can see, we're kind of limited on the space for vegetation, but I think on the other side of the drive aisle, we can introduce more there when we have a landscaper introduced to the project.
I noticed on your drawings that you're showing a ridge cap instead of a turned ridge. Typically on the standing seam roof, the board likes to see a traditional turned ridge.
Okay.
And as far as the acrylic, I hate to see that. Maybe there's something else you could do besides just plastic with a bunch of leaves on it.
Well, I mean, you have to maintain it and clean it pretty often, but that's if that tree was to remain or not.
Right.
The tree to the south and that parking, as you can see, we will maintain and keep.
I'll make a motion to approve application 2185 in keeping with staff's recommendations of items A through J as recommended by the city staff, inclusive of the conceptual approval of the new construction as outlined as well.
Okay, thank you, David. Second?
Second.
Larry, thank you. Any discussion, board?
So you will have to come back as outlined for the new construction and provide more information and profiles.
Yep.
Because we're just approving the conceptual part of that.
I would recommend also you think about the future as far as enclosing, as we've seen on other.
Just out of curiosity, when y'all run up against something like that, if this client was to sell it, which Anna had brought up this talking point originally, wouldn't the new tenants or people have to come in anyways to get approval for such items? So I guess I'm just kind of confused. Like, is there anything that they can put that they won't? Like, is there something in terms that they can write to say that they won't enclose those walls while he's the owner of this property?
No, I mean, you can present, or whoever owns the property can make the application to enclose, but it's probably worthwhile doing your homework now because you might change your mind in the future to increase seating, and we'd hate for you to have to take the whole top off and and do something different, so.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we're seating's kind of set because we're tied by
Things change.
by code and by
Things change, so just maybe
Parking.
think about that. when
Sure.
you're Doing your final design.
okay,
Might save you some money.
sure.
And David, just making sure your motion is based on the staff recommendations.
Yeah,
as well.
exactly, by staff recommendations, all items.
Call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Great. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Other discussion items, item 8 on the agenda. Jason?
Yes, thank you, Chairman, board members. I had a chance to discuss privately with you, a few of you at the last meeting, but we are moving forward with rewrites of our possible amendments to our STR ordinance. I think one of the biggest areas of concern in regards to your purview has been the R2 lots. I think we've seen a lot of density come in. So currently the code allows up to 8 units, which would be 8 parking spaces. I know several projects have come through. Y'all felt that that's a little bit dense. Y'all have had concerns or questions on whether y'all can approve those or deny those. And so I know one of them that we had at the last meeting on San Antonio, there was some hot tub spa areas. Ultimately, that went to council and that was ultimately denied outright. So they may be coming back with a redesign. But thinking about that and thinking about densities in our R2 areas in our historic district, not generally, we look at this area, all the existing R2 that you see along San Antonio, around the middle school, that is almost all of it is single family neighborhood products. It's never made that conversion to multifamily. So what staff is seeking is maybe just a quick email from y'all if y'all have any thoughts on what your preferred densities are. Staff has some thoughts on what other cities are doing and what we would recommend. We do want to give applicants some flexibility to design how they want to design those spaces to look, but we don't want to get into situations. I think we're looking at trying to limit 8 small houses on a lot that we've been seeing, whether they're efficiencies. So there's been some conversations about, is that one main structure per 5,000 square feet, 7,000 square feet, 8,000, what is that ultimate density brought down to? And I think staff's recommendation is that it would be based on a structure, whether that would be, 2 4-bedroom houses as long as they can park it, or 1 4-bedroom house and 2 efficiencies. We kind of want to talk about it in a structure format, or it's more of a form base, so that we kind of can keep the area consistent versus trying to just cram in an efficiency everywhere where we can. So I'm just looking for some feedback, your thoughts. So please email me what your suggestions or your concerns are. Don't copy the whole board. Obviously, we're not looking at making decisions, but I'm interested in your feedback. Just from sitting here for the last 6 months, we've had at least one STR compound on every agenda since I've been here, and there's always some concerns from this group, regardless of how well that product is designed. So I'm just looking for your feedback and a little bit of direction and your thoughts. Y'all are the experts on form and look, and that's a little bit out of my wheelhouse as far as design. So definitely seeking your input on that one.
You guys have any questions for Jason?
I just had one. What are you thinking currently about parking in terms of the R2 neighborhoods in the historic district?
We're thinking parking for any STR. We're not looking at changing the parking requirements per the zoning district. Outside of maybe commercial areas, my thought process is that a short-term rental in the CBD or C2 zoning is not a short-term rental. It is a hotel regardless of size. And so they would meet their parking requirements for a hotel. And we would probably tweak those a little bit because there is a form function difference between a 100-unit hotel room, a Holiday Inn Express. They generally are not 100% booked all the time. So when you look at their ratios at 1.1 spaces per unit, those units are either one bedroom efficiencies, or maybe it's 2 twins. They can sleep up to 4. but their guest operation's a little bit different. They generally families or one or two people and they carpool, but there's some built-in overflow by the extra percentage point and the reason that they're not booked all the time. Short-term rentals are a little bit different in that respect because generally it's one house and it's going to be booked. And so we're looking at either a possibility of tying it to bedrooms in R1, R2. That's pretty stringent, fine line. So if someone comes in and says, hey, I have this 4-bedroom house, I want to rent it as an STR, but I only have 2 spaces and there's physical constraints that allowed me to not do that. If it's based on bedroom, then that would be a denial or they'd have to get some kind of hardship. If we tie it to occupancy, then that would give that owner the option to say, well, I don't want to put in more spaces because I don't want to tear down a tree, but if I take my numbers down to 6 and I only have to park 75% of it, then that at least gives them that flexibility. So I'm a little not sure on what our final proposal will be on that one, but that's kind of where we're going, either per bedroom or per occupancy, a percentage of the occupancy. So if you have a big house and you want to sleep 12, then we would say, okay, you need to park 70%, 60%, whatever that number comes out to, versus just a straight per bedroom. But it definitely has to be more than 1 space per 4-bedroom house, which is what our current code allows.
Yeah, I would favor more leaning into the occupancy. I mean, there's examples of 4-bedroom houses that lease for 16 to 20 occupants, so that's quite common.
Correct. And then ultimately on that, we do want to put in some general guidelines and some images, especially for R1 and R2. Obviously, the historic district requires parking in the rear, so that's a different animal that you guys have a little bit more control over. But the general R1s in the rest of those areas, we don't want people going, well, I want to sleep 16, so I'm going to put in 10 spaces, so I'm going to widen my 2-car driveway into a 10-car driveway. I think we'll put some images in there that they have to meet traditional development patterns. I wouldn't go more than, I think right now our maximum driveway width is 24 feet, so that's a 3-car garage. If you can get 2, that gives you 6 off-street parking. But I kind of need to look at the character of the neighborhood, because a lot of neighborhoods in those older areas are generally 1-car garage, and so maybe we allow the double, but we prohibit the third. And so you'll see some stuff in there that we're putting in, amending as a code, not necessarily for STRs. Most cities have an impervious cover cap on their front yard setback area to keep people from concreting in and doing parking spaces. We don't have that. So whether you're an STR owner or not, you could do that, and that's not something we want. So we're going to put that regulation in there. Again, it's just about kind of keeping consistency with the neighborhood and where they're at. Our current setback ordinance allows for setbacks to be adjusted based on what's on the block. So we could put some language in there that said, hey, if everybody has 2-car wide or 1 car, you could go to 2 wide, but you couldn't go to 3 or something like that. We want to provide some flexibility, because if we're hard and fast on our rules, my experience is you get kind of weird workarounds that don't make a lot of sense. So I'd rather build some flexibility into to keep that there.
Thank you, Jason. Any other questions?
Back in the May meeting, Eric spoke about the fact that we were in non-compliance, and Daniel was going to look into that. Did you research that?
I did, and we have since filed, I think I maybe gave an update, maybe you weren't here at that meeting, but we, city filed basically a notice identifying every single property that has a historic designation in the city. And so, the fact that wasn't filed didn't jeopardize the action of this board or anything like that, but some additional remedies that the city has when people, for example, were to demolish a historic property without authorization. The city has some extraordinary remedies, and for those remedies to be accessible, the city has to file that notice. So that's been taken care of. And we had done a few individual, since I came on, as individual landmarks were designated. We had filed those independently. But we filed something to cover everything. So every single property that's been designated as historic, either in the district or landmark, essentially has something in the real property records noting that. So any subsequent purchaser would know that when they were to do a title search or were interested in buying the property.
So he was correct?
He was correct that it had not been filed, yes.
Okay, anybody else? Any questions for discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Richie. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Thank you, staff.